This is our time. I'm Carolina Carroll in the studio. Greetings to our Freedom viewers. Let's get straight to the top stories. On Friday night, Russia launched another massive attack on Ukrainian cities. 579 aerial targets were fired across the country, including cruise and ballistic missiles, as well as attack drones. The Ukrainian air defense system managed to destroy 24 Kh-101 missiles, 2 Iskanders, and 542 Shaheds. Air raid sirens sounded in almost every region of the country. Reports indicate 11 missiles and 27 attack UAVs hit 20 different locations. Additionally, drone debris fell in another 22 locations. Early this morning, Russia struck Kharkiv with ballistic missiles. This was reported by the city mayor, Ihor Terekhos. 2 people were injured. One of them has been hospitalized. High-rise buildings and a gas pipeline were damaged. As a reminder, Kharkiv has been under massive shelling since yesterday morning. Yesterday afternoon, a direct hit on a residential building was recorded in the city. 2 people were injured, and in the evening, a 4-story building caught fire. It was reported that 1 person was injured. Also, a 28-year-old woman and a 1-month-old boy suffered an acute stress reaction. One of the Shaheds fell in the central city park.
The Shahed fell near the kiosk. It hit a birch tree directly, and all the shrapnel flew over here toward our cable car. The kiosk is a total loss. Well, we'll be repairing this.
Is this the first time the cable car has been hit in 4 years?
No, this is probably the 3rd or 4th time. The cable is severed. All the wires are cut. The cabins were removed because 28 of them, have holes.
In Kherson, Russians hit a shuttle bus with a drone. 7 people were injured. They have been hospitalized, according to local authorities. The victims suffered blast-related traumatic brain injuries. Multiple shrapnel wounds. The bus driver is in critical condition. Doctors are fighting for his life. In Sumy, a Molnia-type drone hit a shopping center. 4 people were injured. They sustained shrapnel wounds. Medics are providing the necessary aid to the wounded. Additionally, 1 person was injured in the Sumy region as a result of Russian strikes. Over the past 24 hours, Russian troops shelled 29 settlements in the region. A gas station building, a store, apartment blocks, and private houses were damaged. Russia also launched a massive strike on the Kyiv region. In Obukaviv, hits were recorded on a high-rise residential building and a school's grounds. In the Bucha district, 1 person was killed. Preliminary reports also indicate 1 person was injured. In the village of Chebany, a Russian drone strike hit a veterinary clinic. Joining us live now on Freedom is correspondent Andrei Dimitrenko. He is on the scene and will provide all the details currently available. Audrey, hello. The floor is yours.
Hello? Yes, right now, I'm at the village of Chebany in the Kyiv region, right next to this veterinary clinic that was hit by a Russian drone this morning. Animals were brought here not only from nearby districts, but from all over the territory of Ukraine. Unfortunately, not a single one of the pets could be saved. That is what the local administration is reporting. They recently completed the process of clearing away the debris and the equipment. Let's hear more from the administration about the full consequences of this morning's attack.
No people were hurt. Only the staff was here. We managed to run to the basement, to the shelter. It's located right here in our clinic. Unfortunately, we just didn't have time to take the animals. 2 dogs and 5 kittens. When the rescuers brought them out, we couldn't, unfortunately, resuscitate them. Too much time had passed, about 40 minutes. No one could enter the clinic before. Everything was on fire, and they wouldn't let anyone in. They were putting out the fire.
The explosion was powerful. And the consequences are quite significant. Nevertheless, the administration plans to restore the clinic. At this very moment, the equipment has been temporarily relocated to another location, but they plan to transport it back to the spot once they can fully repair it. Here in the yard is the car that was previously used by the medical facility. As you can see, the building itself is located in a residential area. Fortunately, none of the locals who live nearby were injured. Let's hear from the residents of Chebany about this morning's attack.
The sirens have been going off since early morning. We didn't let our child go to school. And when the loud shooting started, we realized it was going to be very dangerous because it was very close. We ran to the shelter. All the workers were in the shelter too, but then we couldn't all get out because everything here was blocked off immediately. There was debris lying right here.
By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the village is slowly returning to normal life. The police have opened the road on this street where the veterinary clinic is located. People are returning from work and public transportation is running again. But nevertheless, they will remember this morning for a long time. Let's hear from the local residents.
I live nearby. I saw a Shahed flying by, and then I heard from a friend that it hit the veterinary clinic. I grabbed my stuff and came over to help. We've been carrying out everything that survived, nightstands, cabinets, and microscopes. Now we're gonna move all of this stuff to another location. First, the rescue teams arrived to put out the fire, and then they let people come in and help.
The air raid siren went off literally 10 minutes ago. There's still this anxious state continuing here because there were several air raid alerts today, and it was during the second one that this terrible hit occurred. We continue to monitor the situation not only in the Kiev region but throughout all of Ukraine. Studio.
Andriy, thank you for that report. I'll remind you, that was correspondent Andriy Dmitrenko with details of the tragedy in the Kyiv region where a Russian drone hit a veterinary clinic. Unfortunately, animals were killed there. This morning, a Shahed-type drone was detected in Moldova's airspace. According to the country's Ministry of Defense, it flew in from the Odessa region and moved toward the Moldovan village of Tudara. The drone's speed was approximately 160 kilometers per hour. Later, it left Moldovan airspace and headed back toward the Odessa region. Amidst the massive Russian attack on Ukraine, the president of Ukraine held a conversation with Pope Leo XIV. Volodymyr Zelenskyy spoke about the negotiation process and work with the American team. The head of state also expressed gratitude for assistance in returning abducted Ukrainian children and for all the humanitarian aid provided by the Vatican.
In fact, the attack has been continuing in waves since last night, and already at least 5 regions have come under fire. Not an hour apiece for a people. This is Russia's response to our proposal for an Easter ceasefire. In reality, the Russians only increased the intensity of the strikes, and instead of silence in the sky, they staged an Easter escalation. This certainly cannot be ignored, and I am grateful to everyone in the world who is not silent about it. I wished His Holiness and the believers celebrating Easter this Sunday a blessed holiday and peace. Of course, we would be happy to see His Holiness in Ukraine for an apostolic visit. And I am especially grateful that the Pope remembers Ukraine, Ukrainians, and prays for peace for our people. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The main goal of the Russian attacks in the middle of the day is to increase the number of civilian casualties. This was stated by the head of the Center for Countering Disinformation under the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. According to him, that is exactly why the combined attack took place on a workday, using a large number of drones and missiles. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha also reacted to the Russian showing. According to him, Moscow rejects diplomacy and responds this way to Ukraine's proposal for an Easter ceasefire.
Nearly 500 drones and cruise missiles attacked Ukraine. This is how Moscow responds to Kyiv's proposals for an Easter truce, with brutal attacks. Russian terrorists reject diplomacy and peace efforts. They must receive a decisive and just response. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Telegram.
1,230 Russian troops were eliminated by Ukraine's defense forces in just the past day. This is reported by the General Staff of the AFU. Thus, the enemy's total losses since the start of the full-scale war have already exceeded 1,301,000 soldiers. In addition, yesterday, also in literally one day, the Ukrainian defense forces destroyed 3 Russian tanks, 6 armored vehicles, and 5 artillery systems. They also burned 177 units of motor vehicles, fuel tankers, and 2 units of special equipment belonging to the Russians. 230 combat engagements took place at the front over the past 24 hours. This is reported by the General Staff of AFU. 58 times the enemy tried to push back the Ukrainian defenders in the Pokrovsk direction. In the Hulyai direction, Russian troops attacked 40 times. In the Alexandrovka direction, 21 times. 13 more times, the Russians tried to advance on the Orikhiv section of the front. In addition, the defense forces successfully repelled 19 assaults in the Kostiantynivka direction and 8 in the Lyman section. Through the Chernihiv region, the Russian army planned to reach the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, by the shortest route. But the invaders encountered heroic resistance there from the AFU and local residents. These days, exactly 4 years ago, the Ukrainian defense forces pushed the Russian occupiers out of the region. To see how the Chernihiv region is living after liberation, watch the report by our correspondent, Alexei Baranovsky.
The tanks are moving in reverse. The Koryukov community didn't let them into the city of Koryukivka.
In the very first days of the full-scale invasion, in border Koryukivka in the north of the Chernihiv region, local residents blocked the advance of Russian tanks.
From my experience talking to prisoners, they were convinced that here in the Chernihiv region there would be no resistance, that the people here are pro-Russian, Russian-speaking, and they would meet the Russians with bread and salt.
Faced with resistance from the AFU and residents of the Chernihiv region, the Russian invaders began to launch indiscriminate missile and bomb strikes on residential areas and frequently deployed combat aircraft.
These are the remains of cluster munitions, and here is the result of the damage caused by these cluster munitions.
The historic Gagarin Stadium. I don't know what Gagarin has to do with it, but anyway, the professional Desna football team used to play their home matches here. Now, right in the middle of the field, there's a crater from a Russian shell.
Watch out, incoming. They jumped out. These are the shattered fragments of an emergency ejection seat from a Russian Su-34 bomber,
Which was shot down over Chernihiv on March 5th, 2022. Shot down by a man-portable air defense system.
Combat medic from Chernihiv, Denis Ponomarenko, joined the Kiev Azov unit from the first days of the full-scale invasion and died defending the village of Mushchun in the Kiev region.
and his incredible strength of spirit was such that he even managed to save several fellow brothers in arms before he died.
On the anniversary of Denis Ponomarenko's death, a now traditional sports festival was held in his honor in Chernihiv. More than 100 talented young athletes participated in the event.
It's such a heartache. It's a memory. Respect.
Well-known Chernihiv athlete Vladislav Shatilo also participated in the competitions. He represents Ukraine at various international competitions for war veterans with amputations.
From my own experience, I can say that you definitely shouldn't lose heart. Be sad or withdraw into yourself, because that won't help in any way.
2/3 of the Chernihiv region were under the control of occupation forces for more than a month after the start of the full-scale invasion. But by April 6, 2022, the Russian army had already been pushed back beyond the region's borders.
We won't give up. We're holding on. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.
Thanks to the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian defense forces and the region's residents, the Russians' plans to occupy the region and pave the shortest path to Kyiv were thwarted. Alexei Baranovsky from the Chernihiv region for the Freedom TV channel.
Next, a topic for more detailed discussion. Russian occupiers are preparing strikes on Ukrainian logistics, specifically the railway, as well as water supply facilities, dams, bridges, and hydroelectric power plants. This was stated by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy during a media briefing based on data from Ukrainian intelligence. He noted that all regional authorities are already conducting appropriate preparations, while the air forces are working on strengthening air defense and integrating systems. According to Zelenskyy, new air defense assets are also needed, which don't even exist in Europe yet.
We want to count on anti-missile assets that Middle Eastern countries have, but which we do not. Specifically, we're talking about THAAD systems and others. Such systems don't exist in Europe either. It is very necessary for them to be in Ukraine. Then, for example, the threat of Russian aerial bombs to the country will disappear, at least for 200 kilometers. We would definitely eliminate this problem. Russian planes simply wouldn't get close. And that's it. We would like to get answers to these questions. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, during a conversation with journalists.